प्रातरज्ञम् प्रातरिन्द्रम् हवामहे प्रातर्मित्रावरुणा प्रातरश्विना प्रातर्भगम् पोषणम् ब्रह्मणस्पतिम् प्रातः सोमामुतरुद्रम् होवेम प्रातर्जितम् भगमुग्रम् होवेम वयम् पुत्रमुदितेर्यो विधत्ता आध्रश्चिद्यम् मन्यमानस्तुरश्चिद्राजा आदित्यम् भगम् भक्षेत्याः भगप्रणेतर्भगसत्याराधो भगे माम् धियमुदवादतन्नः भगप्रणो जनय गोभिरश्वेर्भगप्रणभिर्नवन्तस्याम उदेदानीम् भगवन्तस्यावोतप्रविद्वपुतमध्ये अन्नाः उदोदीतामघवन् सूर्यस्य वयम् देवानाम् सुमतोऽस्याम भग एव भगवान् अस्तु देवास्तेन वयम् भगवन्तस्याम तन्त्वा भग सर्वगिज्जो हवेति सतो भगपुरहेता भवेह समध्वरायोषसो नमन्त्वदधिक्रावे वजुषाये पदाय अर्वाजीरम् सुभिजम् भगन्नोरथमिवाश्वावाजिन आवाहन्तो अश्वावतीर्योपातीर्नवुषासो वीरवातीस्तदामुच्छन्तु भद्राः सुतम् दुहाना विश्वतप्रवीता यूयम् पातः स्वस्तिभिस्वताः.
Assam has a glorious cultural past and boasts of special mention in Kalika Puran as the most sacred place. It is located in the sub-Himalayan region in the Brahmaputra and Barak Valley. In the medieval period, Assam was known as Kamrupa and ruled by Bhaskar Barma. Subsequently, in the 13th century, Ahom kingdom was established. During the British period, the British East India Company annexed the entire region. Initially, Assam was made a part of the Bengal Presidency, and in 1906, it was a part of Eastern Bengal as Assam Province. Anundoram Borooah, who hails from Assam, may aptly be considered as a forerunner and a revered literary stalwart of this holy land. He was born on the 21st of May 1850 at Rajaduar near North Guwahati.
Anundoram Borooah পিতৃ স্বৰ্গীয় গৰ্গাৰাম বৰুৱাৰ ঘৰ আছিলে।
His father, Gargaram Borooah, was a Sardar Amin, or a higher administrative officer under the then British rulers. Anundoram was the third son of his parents, Gargaram and Dullaveshwari. In the year 1857, he lost his mother when he was just 7. He finished his primary education in 1862 in a local lower primary school in the vicinity of Goalpara. After his primary education, Anundoram came to Guwahati with his elder brother Parashuram and was admitted to the district school, Guwahati Seminary, in the year 1863. Anundoram, during his childhood, had a strong interest in Sanskrit language and literature. He started learning Sanskrit at home under the guidance of Haragovinda Sharma, who was also their family priest. Later, another home teacher, Sri Kalikanta Sharma, taught him Sanskrit grammar. As a result of these studies, Anundoram, at the age of 14, could recite spontaneously Amar Kosh, written by the great Sanskrit scholar Amar Simha of the Gupta dynasty. This anthology is a voluminous work in 3 parts. Here, different aspects of Hindu Shastras or moral ethics are well defined. In fact, to him, Sanskrit was dearer than any other language. Its musical effect and the powers of expression of human thoughts charmed Anundoram since his early days. Anundoram cleared the entrance examination in 1865 from Cotton Collegiate School. Although he was placed in the second division, a scholarship was awarded to him for higher studies. Since a college was yet to be established in Assam, he had to go out of the state. This scholarship encouraged him. And he went to Calcutta. Soon, he got admitted to the Presidency College to study fine arts. There, he got in touch with the great Sanskrit scholar Mahamohopadhyay Mahesh Chandra Nayaratna and Sir Gurudas Banerjee, who was his mathematics teacher. Anundoram, during his student life in Presidency College, stayed at the Hindu hostel. This renowned Hindu hostel also accommodated students like Dr. Rajendra Prasad, Prashanta Chandra Mahalanubish, and Amartya Sen, who came from outside Calcutta. One particular incident needs special mention in this context. Sir Gurudas Banerjee, the famous orator and politician, and subsequently the Vice-Chancellor of Calcutta University, appreciated Anundoram's talent in mathematics. In his letter on Anundoram, he commented, "I became acquainted with Mr. Anundoram Borooah as a first-year student of the Presidency College in 1865. He was a very modest student and unassuming, and he did his work in the class remarkably well. Mr. Anundoram Borooah was unquestionably the brightest of this bright band of young students. In Presidency College, his close classmates were well-known Bengali novelists Ramesh Chandra Dr, ICS, Syed Amir Ali, Surendranath Banerjee, the then ICS, and notable Bengali poet Nobin Chandra Sen. In the mid-19th century, during Bengal Renaissance, among these leading brilliant intellectuals, Anundoram Borooah was an equally noteworthy personality from undivided Assam, Bengal. In the Presidency College Register of Students, Anundoram was a remarkable name. Anundoram had the opportunity to meet Pandit Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. When he was a student of Presidency College, he met Mahamohopadhyay Mahesh Chandra Nayaratna of Sanskrit College. Authentic biographer of Anundoram, Dr. Surya Kumar Bhuya, in his treatise on Anundoram, mentioned that through Mahamohopadhyay Mahesh Chandra Nayaratna, Anundoram got acquainted with Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, the formal principal of Sanskrit College. His association with two great Sanskrit scholars highly inspired Anundoram to pursue Sanskrit literature and language.
He edited at least 2 books from non-Paninian grammatical traditions, and those were from the Katantra system of thought on dhatus, that is verbal roots, and again on verbal system. He had a pan-Indian view of looking at things, and since he was trained up in Western traditions too, each one of his works shows how a critical blend of tradition and innovation can help in understanding our ancient cultural heritage. As an administrator, he succeeded in his best possible way. His service to the people was well appreciated, but at the same time, as an administrator, he tried to help the backward sections of the people.
Anundoram stood 6th in the LA examination held in December 1866. He got a first class and secured the Tufts Scholarship with the highest marks in mathematics. He graduated in the year 1869 and stood 3rd in the order of merit. On the recommendation of the examiners of the Syndicate of Calcutta University, at its meeting held on the 29th of January 1869, it was decided to award state scholarship to him for studies in England. He won the scholarship of £200 a year, tenable for 3 years in England. In March-April 1869, he voyaged to England and stayed in Berkeley Square near London. He won the Gilchrist Scholarship of £100 a year for 5 years in England. These 2 scholarships enabled him to fulfill his ambition of competing for the Indian Civil Service. Anundoram arrived in England in May 1869. Soon after his arrival, he joined one of the civil services coaching institutes in London. He also took admission in the Middle Temple College for Law and in London College for the BSc degree. Thereafter, he was admitted to Indian Civil Service in 1872. Amongst other Indians, Ramesh Chandra Dr and Surendranath Banerjee were very close friends of Anundoram during his stay in London. Anundoram had a problem of getting admission to the Indian Civil Services as his age was less than the eligible age of 19. A great deal of correspondence in this regard was made between the ICS Examination Authority and the Secretary of State for India. In this situation, Surendranath Banerjee pleaded to the Examination Authority, saying that in India, the calculation of age is done including 10 months prior to the date of birth. Here is a very humorous reference about Anundoram's age disqualification, written by Alec Macmillan. You played a horoscopic hoax on our good, easy English folks by dropping out an awkward year. In counting up your age sum, the evil-speaking pioneer thus libelleth Anundoram. Anundoram stood 7th among the successful ICS candidates. The glorious trio, Surendranath Banerjee, Ramesh Chandra Dr and Biharilal Gupta, already cleared the final ICS examination 1 year prior to Anundoram. Thus Anundoram is reckoned as the 5th civilian. He was the first ICS from Assam, while Satyendra Tagore was the first Indian to clear this test. He left England and arrived in Bombay on the 9th of September 1872. From Bombay, he proceeded to Calcutta. Soon after arrival at Calcutta, he proceeded on his way to Guwahati, his hometown, by steamer. As soon as Anundoram arrived in Guwahati, the enthusiastic villagers of Rajaduar felicitated him sounding conch on the bank of river Brahmaputra, just near the island temple of Umananda. But his father Gargaram, a staunch follower of Hinduism, was not the least enthusiastic about all this. Rather, he wanted to take him into the caste by performing prayashchitta or atonement, as Anundoram had travelled across Kalapani to England. Anundoram politely refused. Anundoram Borooah opted for service at Shibsagar, a small town in Upper Assam, as the Assistant Commissioner on the 11th of December 1872.
Anundoram Borooah, after getting into ICS, got his first posting as Assistant Commissioner in Shibsagar on 11 December 1872. So this is the building where he worked. This was then the office of the SDO Civil Shibsagar, and Anundoram Borooah was one of the assistant commissioners.
Shibsagar, or the Ocean of Lord Shiva, is a town in Upper Assam and was the capital of the Ahom Kingdom from 1699 to 1788. This temple in Shibsagar town was built in 1734 by Kuori Umbika and dedicated to the Hindu god Lord Shiva. The Ahom ruled Assam for 6 centuries, and then it was completely annexed to British East India Company in 1826.
As an Indian, he had a strong sense of self-respect. Once, Borooah was just started his career as an assistant commissioner at Shibsagar, and Assamese gentlemen came to visit him. They were seated in 2 chairs. At that moment, Deputy Secretary, some British Sahib, he entered with his, some attendants or some other Sahibs. So there were not adequate chairs. The Sahibs were seated, but some were kept standing. Then that gentleman, Assamese from the village, he wanted to leave his chair. But what Anundoram compelled him to be seated there. He told, "You are an independent citizen. Why should you leave the chair? Please remain seated." This is another thing of his character.
The undivided Bengal and Assam were mostly Anundoram Borooah's working place. From 1873 to 1889, almost 16 years. It was a new epoch in Anundoram Borooah's life. Apart from his administrative work, he also began his creative work. In April 1874, Anundoram went to Mymensingh, a district in present Bangladesh, by the Assam-Bengal Railway as the assistant magistrate and collector. Anundoram made preparation for his English-Sanskrit dictionary during this tenure. This palace at Mymensingh was earlier known as Binodbari. Later, King Suryanarayan Acharya renovated this colossal palace. This structure of iron, locally known as Lohar Kutir, was built by the king of Mymensingh, Suryanarayan Acharya, in the year 1879 and was dedicated to the then magistrate N.S. Alexander. This place was visited by Rabindranath Tagore, Lord Curzon, Kamal Pasha, Deshabandhu Chittaranjan Das, and others. Anundoram's first contribution to Sanskrit language was English-Sanskrit dictionary. At that time, it was posted in Shibsagar. The first volume of his book was published in May 1877. He sent his first 64 printed pages of English-Sanskrit dictionary to the great Indologist Max Muller. Professor F. Max Muller, in a letter to Mr. Borooah, wrote, "Your work is evidently not simply a Sanskrit-English dictionary mechanically inverted, but you have treated each word independently, and by giving the nearest approach to each English word in Sanskrit, you have shown your familiarity with the idioms of both languages."
He was very much interested in creative literature of Sanskrit. Bhavabhuti was his most favorite poet. Therefore, at the age of 27 only, in 1877 or so, he edited Mahavira Charita, a drama by Bhavabhuti, and authored a Sanskrit commentary on this great Sanskrit drama. He also authored a critical study on Bhavabhuti and his contributions to Sanskrit literature. But his interest in studying the language and literature in Sanskrit did not stop there. He also ventured into the abstruse texts of Sanskrit poetology.
In 1877, he took charge as an assistant magistrate in Burdwan district. During his stay at Burdwan, he published the first volume of his English Sanskrit dictionary. Burdwan district is in West Bengal. Raja Bijoy Chand Mahatab did his best to improve the region culturally and economically. In September 1877, Anundoram became the subdivisional officer of Raniganj of Asansol subdivision of West Bengal. Sir Sol Rajbari reminds us of the earlier history of Raniganj and the former kings. The discovery of coal led to industrialization of the area. The coal fields directly led to the first railway track from Howrah being routed to Raniganj. The East Indian Railway line was opened to traffic in early 1855. Here, Anundoram wrote his remarkable work Mahavira Charita. It is based on a play by Sanskrit playwright Bhavabhuti. It's based on the heroics of Ramachandra. This annotated and edited work of Anundoram is a valuable contribution to Sanskrit study.
When Mahavira Charita is the heroic activities of Rama up to his victory over Ravana. Uttara Ramacharita, after Rama with Sita, they are coming back to Ajodhya. After that, Uttara Ramacharita starts. However, he started writing the commentary on Mahavira Charita, then only 2 editions were available. One by Francis Henry Truthen, 1848, and second by Taranath Tarkobachashpati. But none of them was accompanied with a commentary or translation of the Prakrita passages, which were absolutely necessary for the elucidation of the text. Anundoram did it in his Janakirama Bhashya. Here, the greater importance of Borooah's commentary lies. In Janakirama Bhashya, he tries to, do justice to the text as well as to his family. He always remembers his loved ones, his dear and near ones, and his motherland through his works. I am giving some examples. In Mahavira Charita, every act is named. You just notice Janakirama Bhashya. Janakirama has a slash, pun in it. Janakirama means Janaki is Sita and Rama you know. So Janaki and Rama are worshipped by whole of India. And Janakirama is Anundoram's brother. So what he is telling that Janakirama Sodaryo Durlabha Garga Nandana Anundoram Borooah Prag Jyotisha Pura Sambhava. So I am Anundoram Borooah, who is son of Durlabha, his mother, and Garga, his father, and who is the brother of Janakirama. Thus he wants to immortalize his father, mother, and his brother also.
In November 1877, Anundoram, during his stay in Vishnupur of West Bengal, wrote A Companion to the Sanskrit Reading Undergraduates. Vishnupur is famous for its terracotta temples. This dissertation of Anundoram was specially meant for Sanskrit students of undergraduate classes of the Calcutta University. Post that, Anundoram was transferred to Kathua in West Bengal as a subdivisional officer. In February 1878, he was again transferred to Khulna district of erstwhile East Bengal in the same capacity. Khulna is a district of present Bangladesh. During his term in Khulna, Anundoram wrote his most critical work, Bhavabhuti and his place in Sanskrit literature. Anundoram wrote the higher Sanskrit grammar when he was in Jehanabad, a subdivisional town in Gaya district of the then Bengal. Subsequently, without a break, he was engaged in translating and compiling Sanskrit classical texts. His engagement as a civilian never stopped his creative endeavor. His total number of books on Sanskrit language and literature are The reprints of Anundoram's works published by Publication Board Assam are the treatise on Anundoram Borooah's works, which have been written by erudite persons, are
তেখেতৰ তাত কোনো পেডেন্টিকেল ৱৰ্ডছ নাই, পাণ্ডিত্যপূৰ্ণ কোনো শব্দ তেখেতে পৰাপক্ষত তাত গ্ৰহণ কৰা নাই বুলি কৈছে। যিবিলাক সংস্কৃত ভাৰতীয় শব্দ প্ৰচলিত আছিল সেইবিলাকৰ ইংৰাজী ৰূপবিলাকক তেখেতে কি ৱৰ্ডছ হিচাপে লৈছিল। যিবিলাক ইংৰাজী শব্দ সেই সময়ত ব্যৱহৃত হৈছিল, এখন এ প্ৰেক্টিকেল ইংলিছ সংস্কৃত ডিকশ্যনেৰী, গতিকে ইংৰাজীৰ পৰা সংস্কৃত শব্দ দিছে। সেই সময়ছোৱা 19বিংশ শতিকাৰ সেই সময়ছোৱা এনেকুৱা এটা সময় আছিল যে ব্ৰিটিছ শাসন আৰু ভাৰতীয় শাসিত, এই শাসক আৰু শাসিত, এই ৰুল এণ্ড দ্য ৰুলাৰ, এই দুই পক্ষৰ মাজত যোগাযোগ স্থাপন কৰিবৰ বাবে, তেওঁলোকৰ মাজত বুজা পৰা সাৱলীল হ'বৰ বাবে, বুজা পৰা সহজ হ'বৰ বাবে, যোগাযোগ সহজ হ'বৰ বাবে কিছুমান শব্দৰ প্ৰয়োজন হৈছিল। তেওঁলোকক অধিক প্ৰয়োজন হৈছিল সাধাৰণ কথা বতৰাৰ ব্যৱহাৰত যিবোৰ শব্দ আছিল সেই শব্দবোৰ তেওঁলোকক বেছিকৈ দৰকাৰ হৈছিল। এতিয়া মনিয় উইলিয়ামছে যিবিলাক আলংকাৰিক সাহিত্যৰ পৰা শব্দ বুটলি আনিছে, যিটো ভকেবুলাৰী, যিটো শব্দ সম্ভাৰ গ্ৰহণ কৰিছে, তাতকৈ আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাৰ কাৰণে অধিক প্ৰয়োজনীয় আছিল সেই সময়ৰ প্ৰশাসনীয়, তাৰ লগতে ন্যায় সম্পৰ্কীয়, জুডিচিয়াৰী, তাৰপিছতে আপোনাৰ এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ সাধাৰণ ব্যৱহাৰত থকা শব্দৰ অধিক প্ৰয়োজন হৈছিল। এতিয়া আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাই এনেকুৱা কিছুমান ইংৰাজী শব্দৰ সংস্কৃত প্ৰতিশব্দ দিছে যিবোৰ শব্দ সংস্কৃত ভাষাত আচলতে নাই। ধৰি লওক হেংকাৰচিফ, ইট ইজ এ লোন ৱৰ্ড। এই শব্দটো ইউৰোপিয়ানসকলে লগত লৈ আহিছে, হেংকাৰচিফ। আৰু এই হেংকাৰচিফ শব্দটোৰ কাৰণে সেই সময়ত ভাৰতত প্ৰচলিত আছিলে ৰুমাল। ৰুমাল এতিয়াও প্ৰচলিত শব্দ ৰুমাল। আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাই তাৰ ভাৰতীয় সংস্কৃতাইজ কৰি ৰূপ দিছে ৰৌমালকম। ঠিক তেনেধৰণে কামান, বন্দুকম, গান, বন্দুকম, কামানম ফৰ কেনন, কেনন শব্দটোৰ কাৰণে কামানম শব্দটো লৈছে। তেনেকৈ চক্স, SOCKS, চক্স, মোজা। দ্য চক্স, দ্য ৱৰ্ড হেজ কাম ফ্ৰম ইউৰোপ। আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাই ভাৰতীয় ৰূপ দিছে পাদাৱৰণম।
Lord Northbrook, the then Governor General of India, highly appreciated Anundoram's first voluminous book, English Sanskrit Dictionary, from 1877 to 1880. This work appeared in 3 volumes. The second volume of the English Sanskrit Dictionary was published from Goalpara in 1878, and the third volume from Dinajpur in 1880. Professor V.S. Apte, in the preface to his English Sanskrit Dictionary, commented, "The dictionary of this sort are 2 in number. One was by Mr. Munir Williams, and the other was by Anundoram Borooah of Calcutta. Mr. Borooah's work is eminently practical. The great scientist of the late 19th century, Dr. Prafulla Chandra Roy, in his Hindu chemistry, mentioned about Anundoram's scholarly approach to Sanskrit language and literature. We may mention here the opinion of Dr. Shunita Kumar Chattopadhyay about Anundoram. The learned world in India and abroad, interested in Sanskrit studies and Indology, will receive with gratitude the publication once again of some of the works of Anundoram Borooah, the great Sanskritist of Assam in India in the last century, who enriched the field of Sanskrit studies by his lexicographical work, as well as work on the Sanskrit metrics and other contributions of immense value. Mahamohopadhyay Mahesh Chandra Nayaratnam, the principal of Sanskrit College, mentioned in Mahavir Charitam by Bhavabhuti, I have carefully gone over the first two acts of the drama, and I can honestly say that the manner in which you have discharged the duties of editor and commentator has afforded me the greatest pleasure. Anundoram conceived the extensive voluminous project of a comprehensive grammar of Sanskrit language in 12 volumes of 1,000 pages each. Only one copy of the highest Sanskrit grammar is available at the National Library in Kolkata. For carrying out such a huge project, the facilities available in India were quite inadequate. He decided to proceed to England for the second time to consult rare books and manuscripts. He took 2 years temporary leave from November 1881 and set out for England. After 2 years' stay in London and a dedicated research in the British Museum, he returned to India in October 1883. Almost for 15 years, Anundoram Borooah served as a very successful administrator and never neglected his service to the British Crown. Anundoram also put all his efforts to the study of Sanskrit language and literature.
Why Bhavabhuti? Why not Kalidasa? This question naturally arises in our mind. Actually, those who have gone through Bhavabhuti's work, he is credited with 3 dramas, Mahavira Charita, Uttara Ramacharita and Malati Madhava. Among these, the first 2, they are based on the Ramayana stories. And what did Bhavabhuti? He changed the Ramayana story to a great extent. You know, in our society, if there is any revolutionary poet, he is not accepted by the society. For instance, Bhasa. It is said all the dramas of Bhasa were put into fire and only Swapna Basavadatta existed after that. Why? Why the dramas of Bhasa were put into fire? Because he made hero out of villain, who was villain in the Mahabharata. In Bhavabhuti's case, we find he changed Ramayana. Maybe that Bhavabhuti was neglected during his time, and Bhavabhuti himself, he says, Vipulacha Prithi Kalu Niravadhi. Nobody understands me, but somebody will come, because the time will witness that somebody will come in some time who will understand me or assess me.
In December 1883, he was at Benares. Here, the preface of his Kabbalanka Shutta Vritti was documented. In June 1879, Anundoram joined as Joint Magistrate of Dinajpur. In 1880, he was the District Magistrate and Collector of Dinajpur temporarily for a few months. Here, the 3rd volume of Practical English Sanskrit Dictionary was published. His notable writing, Ancient Geography of India, was a preface to the 3rd volume of the dictionary. Dinajpur is a district in northern Bangladesh. It was once a part of the ancient state of Pundravardhana. In late 18th century, Maharaja Ramnath, the adopted son of King Pranunath, ruled Dinajpur. The British administration controlled Dinajpur in 1786. This district is famous for Kantuju Temple and Ramsagar. Kantuji Temple is a late medieval Hindu temple in Dinajpur. It was built by Maharaja Pranunath. Its construction was started in 1704 and finished by his son Raja Ramnath in 1722. It boasts as one of the greatest examples in terracotta architecture in Bangladesh. Ramsagar is located in the village Tejpur in Dinajpur district. It is the largest man-made lake in Bangladesh. It was funded by Raja Ramnath, after whom the lake is named. When Anundoram Borooah was posted in Dinajpur, his remarkable writing was Grantha Visarjanam, which is the first sonnet in Sanskrit language.
He is the first person to compose sonnet in Sanskrit. Borooah is the first one who brought the European form of composing sonnet in an ancient language and thereby played the role of Bhagiratha.
This sonnet is included in his work English Sanskrit Dictionary Volume 3. Bengali literature sonnet was first introduced in 1860 by Michael Madhusudhan Dr. He was born in Shagurdari on the bank of Kapotakha River, Jessore district in erstwhile East Bengal. Madhusudhan was greatly inspired by Italian Renaissance poet Francesco Petrarca and his sonnet. Petrarcan sonnets are love letters consisting of 14 lines and written to his lady love, Laura. Madhusudhan's first sonnet was Matribhasha and was later renamed as Bongo Bhasha. Anundoram Borooah was motivated by Madhusudhan to pen Sanskrit sonnet. Anundoram enjoyed 3 months earned leave from May 1881 to August 1881. During this period, he engaged himself in the project Comprehensive Grammar of the Sanskrit language. For a few days, Anundoram stayed with his close friend Taruknath Palit in Calcutta. Then he shifted to 2x1 Bagbajar Street, where he set up a printing press, Muniram Jantra, named after his youngest brother, Muniram. Thereafter, Anundoram went to Baharampur, which is historically famous for the Hajarduari Palace. This colossal palace was built in the 19th century between 1824 and 1838 by architect Duncan MacLeod during the reign of Nawab Nazim Humayun of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. Hajarduari Palace is the most eye-catching building in Murshidabad district. Longing for solitude and desire to establish a bungalow, Anundoram went to Baharampur of present West Bengal. To fulfill his long-cherished dream, he purchased a plot of land for his Baganbari from Rani Sharnumoi, the wife of Raja Krishnanath of Baharampur. This piece of land was on the bank of Bhagirathi. They constructed a Baganbari there. There is an interesting romantic interlude here in the life of Anundoram.
Anundoram Borooah, Baharampur, Murshidabador সদৰ ঠাই তাত কেতিয়াও তেওঁৰ মেজিষ্ট্ৰেট হিচাপে চাকৰি কৰা নাছিল কিন্তু তেওঁ বহৰমপুৰত মাটি কিনিছিল বাগান কিনিছিল তাত এটা প্ৰেছ স্থাপন কৰিছিল আৰু তাত প্ৰায়ে গৈ থাকিছিল এইটো এক ধৰণৰ ৰহস্যজনক কথা তেওঁ বিভিন্ন জিলাত কেতিয়াবা এছডিঅ কেতিয়াবা ডিসি ইত্যাদি হিচাপে কিন্তু বৰমপুৰত কেতিয়াও তেওঁৰ চাকৰি হিচাপে তেওঁৰ কাম নাছিলে। কিন্তু তাত কিয় তেওঁ মাটি কিনিছিল, কিয় তাত ঘৰ কিনিছিল, কিয় তাত বাগান কৰিছিল, আৰু কিয় তাত এটা যন্ত্ৰ, এইটো অৰুণোদয় যন্ত্ৰ নাম দিছিলে, এটা মুদ্ৰণ যন্ত্ৰ, এইবিলাকৰ ঠিক কাৰণটো বিচাৰি পোৱা নাযায়। তেওঁৰ যিখন জীৱনী সূৰ্যভূঞা, একমাত্ৰ নিৰ্ভৰযোগ্য জীৱনী ডক্টৰ সূৰ্য কুমাৰ ভূঞাৰ জীৱনী, তাত তেওঁ বাগানবাৰী শব্দটো ব্যৱহাৰ কৰিছে। আৰু বাগানবাৰী বংগীয় সংস্কৃতিত এটা বিশেষ অৰ্থ আছে তাৰ। জমিদাৰসকলৰ নিজৰ পৰিয়ালৰ পৰা আঁতৰত থাকি অলপ ফূৰ্তি তামচা কৰাৰ তেনেকুৱা ঠাই। কিন্তু আনন্দৰামৰ দৰে এজন পণ্ডিত যি অবিবাহিত আছিল, তেওঁৰ লগত বাগানবাৰী কথাটো খাপ নাখায়। আচলতে মোৰ ধাৰণা হৈছে যে এখন বাগান আছিল আৰু এটা ঘৰ, বাংলাত যাক বাৰী বুলি কয়, এই দুইটা লগ লাগি বাগানবাৰী হৈ গৈছে। প্ৰথম কথা উঠিব, এটা ধাৰণা প্ৰচলিত হৈ আছে যে আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাই কেতিয়াও বিয়া কৰাব বিচৰা নাছিল, আৰু তেওঁ কৈছিলে যে মোৰ এই কিতাপ পত্ৰবিলাকৰ লগতেই যেন মোৰ বিবাহ হৈছে, মই এনেকেই থাকি ভাল পাইছোঁ। কিন্তু দেখা যায় যে আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱা বোধ কৰোঁ বিবাহৰ বিৰোধী নাছিল। কিছুমান তেনেকুৱা তথ্য পোৱা যায়, যেনে এঠাইত তেওঁৰ বন্ধুক ছবি দেখুৱাইছে, এক যুৱতীৰ ছবি, যে মোৰ ভাবি পৰিবাৰ মোৰ এই ধৰণৰ হ'ব, ছবি এখন দেখুৱাইছে। যাৰ বিয়া কৰাৰ কোনো কথা চিন্তা কৰা নাই, তেওঁ সেইটো কিয় কৰিব, সেইটো এটা কথা। দ্বিতীয় কথা, এই যিটো আপুনি তেওঁৰ এটা কাৰোবাৰ প্ৰতি আসক্তি হৈছিল, সেইটো বহৰমপুৰত হোৱা নাছিলে, সেইটো হৈছিলে এক ধৰণে কলিকতাত। গুণাভিৰাম বৰুৱা, তেওঁ সেই সময়ত কলিকতাত আছিলে। আৰু মোৰ যিমান মনত পৰে, আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱা আছিল নোৱাখালীত সেই সময়ত। তেওঁ কলিকতালৈ আহিছিল, আহোঁতে এখন কিতাপৰ দোকানত বা লাইব্ৰেৰীত লগ পালে, নিমন্ত্ৰণ কৰিলে, গ'ল। আৰু সেই সময়তে বোধহয় তেওঁ স্বৰ্ণলতাক প্ৰথম দেখা পায়, আৰু দেখা পাই স্বৰ্ণলতাৰ প্ৰতি আকৃষ্ট হ'ল, এনেকুৱা এটা ধাৰণা পোৱা যায়। আৰু তাৰপিছত তেওঁ এটা বিবাহৰ প্ৰস্তাৱ পঠিয়াইছিল এক বন্ধুৰ যোগেদি। আৰু তেতিয়া গুণাভিৰাম বৰুৱা দম্পতী তেওঁলোকে খুব দুখ কৰি কৈছে যে এনেকুৱা এজন ৰত্ন জোৱাই হিচাপে পালে আমিতো ধন্য হৈ গ'লোহেঁতেন, কিন্তু ইতিমধ্যে স্বৰ্ণলতা বাগদত্তা হৈ গৈছে। গতিকে তেওঁলোকৰ উপায় নাছিল সেই প্ৰস্তাৱটো প্ৰত্যাখ্যান কৰাৰ বাহিৰে, তেওঁলোকৰ উপায় নাছিল। সেই এটা কথাই বুজাই যায় যে তেওঁ স্বৰ্ণলতাক বোধ কৰোঁ বিবাহ কৰাৰ মন আছিল। আৰু স্বৰ্ণলতাৰ ভাতৃ জ্ঞানদাভিৰাম বৰুৱা, আমাৰ ইয়াত জে বৰুৱা বুলি বিখ্যাত, তেওঁৰ আত্মজীৱনীত এই কথাটো উল্লেখ আছে যে বাইদেউৰ লগত, বাইদেউ মানে মাই এল্ডাৰ ছিষ্টাৰ, বাইদেউৰ লগত আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাৰ বিয়া হোৱাৰ কথা এটা উঠিছিল, কিন্তু এইটো কাৰণত বিয়া নহ'ল। কিন্তু মোৰ বাইদেউৰ বিয়াত তেওঁ বৰ ডাঙৰ কাণফুলি, some kind of ear ornaments উপহাৰ দিছিলে। এইবিলাকৰ পৰা বুজা যায় যে তেওঁ স্বৰ্ণলতাৰ বিবাহ কৰিবৰ কাৰণে হয়তো তেওঁৰ মনে মনে ইচ্ছা আছিল।
In Baharampur, Anundoram established another printing press, Arunodoy Yantra, possibly named after the first Assamese newspaper, Arunodoy, started in 1846. He was appointed as the deputy collector in Chittagong district, presently in Bangladesh. on the 13th of September 1883. Chittagong is a famous seaport on the Bay of Bengal. In 1883, Anundoram revisited England and returned to India on the 13th of September 1883. At this juncture, Anundoram Borooah edited and annotated his work, Saraswati Kantha Varanam. It's a treatise on Sanskrit poetics by Bhojaraj. From Chittagong district, Anundoram was transferred to Jessore district as a deputy collector. Jessore was a medieval kingdom during the rule of the famous Pratapaditya. Jessore district once belonged to the ancient kingdom of Shamutot. Here, Anundoram Borooah published an abridged edition of his earlier work, Saraswati Kantha Varanam. In February 1886, Anundoram shifted to Bogura district of present Bangladesh as the district magistrate. Bogura is a northern district of Bangladesh. It was a part of the ancient Pundravardhana territory and was the capital of Pundravardhana. Bogura district occupies an important place in the legends and the earlier historical annals of Bengal. The district testifies to antiquity of a Buddhist shrine. Now, it is known as Mahasthanagara. It means a fortified shrine of the Buddhist Shramana. Once upon a time, this area was inhabited by the Mahayana and the Hinayana sects of Buddhism. The then British administration normally did not approve any native in the post of district magistrate. But Anundoram Borooah was a rare exception to that colonial norm. He was the first Indian to be the administrative head of the entire district. In February 1887, Anundoram Borooah was appointed as the district magistrate of Noakhali in Bangladesh. Noakhali is a district in southeastern Bangladesh. River Meghna flows across this district and meets the Bay of Bengal near Hatia. Anundoram introduced river navigation from Hatia to Borishal to increase trade and commerce in erstwhile East Bengal. Apart from his administrative duty in Noakhali, Anundoram served the local people in many forms. He established a girls' school named Jubilee Girls' School to promote education amongst women. To improve daily business, he also established a bazaar or market, which was commonly known as Borooah Bazaar. During his tenure, a big pond was dug up to serve drinking water to the commoners. It is situated near Dollai Parganas of Kumilla district of present Bangladesh and is still known as Borooah Sahibir Pukur. He introduced telegraph connecting Noakhali with Chittagong. During his tenure as the official magistrate and collector of the district, people of Noakhali addressed him in several verses, expressing their love and respect for him. Anundoram Borooah, during 1888, planned to undertake another voluminous work. He wanted to compile a dictionary of Bengali dialect which would provide the local words of Bengali language. But the plan could not be executed because of his sudden and most unfortunate demise. In December 1888, Anundoram had a sudden attack of paralysis. Under the advice of the well-meaning local physicians, he even took a sea bath at the Shondip island of present Bangladesh. But this had a rather adverse effect. The whole of his right side became totally paralyzed. He took 2 months earned leave with effect from January 2, 1889 and came to Calcutta. He stayed in the residence of his old friend Taroknath Palit. This very residence now houses the Calcutta University Science College in South Calcutta. Leading doctors, homeopaths and Ayurveda physicians of Calcutta did their best to cure Anundoram Borooah. But he breathed his last on the 19th of January, 1889. The tireless Indologist from the Brahmaputra Valley breathed his last in his prime, and Assam lost her most glorious son.
Dr. Suryakumar Bhuiya তিনিজন সর্বভারতীয় ব্যক্তিত্বৰ সন্ধান দিছে। প্ৰথমজন হ'ল প্ৰাগৈতিহাসিক যুগত ভগদত্ত, দ্বিতীয়জন মধ্যযুগৰ কুমাৰ ভাস্কৰ বৰ্মন আৰু তৃতীয়জন হ'ল Anundoram Borooah.
When Anundoram Borooah died, his death was mourned in India and abroad. A marble plaque was established in 1935 in the Baligan Science College campus by the Assamese boys and girls to pay homage to Anundoram Borooah. The government of Assam established Anundoram Borooah Institute of Language, Art and Culture, an autonomous body, in the year 1989 in commemoration of this great scholar, to work for the development of all indigenous languages, art and culture, and to promote and encourage Sanskrit studies.
Anundoram Borooah ভাষা কলা সংস্কৃতি সংস্থাৰ অসম চৰকাৰে ইয়াক এটা স্বায়ত্তশাসিত সংস্থা হিচাপে জন্ম দিছিলে অসমৰ থলুৱা ভাষাসমূহৰ উন্নয়ন কল্পে আৰু ইয়াক স্থাপন কৰা হৈছিলে বিশ্ববৰেণ্য পণ্ডিত সংস্কৃত পণ্ডিত আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাৰ স্মৃতি যুগমীয়া কৰাৰ অৰ্থে সেই সূত্ৰে আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱা ভাষা কলা সংস্কৃতি সংস্থাত অসমৰ ভাষা কলা সংস্কৃতিৰ অধ্যয়নৰ লগতে সংস্কৃতৰ অধ্যয়নৰো এটা আমাৰ কোষ আছে আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱা ভাষা কলা সংস্কৃতি সংস্থাৰ লোক সংস্কৃতি ভাষা সাহিত্য আৰু পৰিবেশ কলা আদি এইবিলাকৰ ওপৰত আমি গৱেষণাৰ কাম কৰোঁ আৰু ইতিমধ্যে এই সংস্থাটো গুৱাহাটী বিশ্ববিদ্যালয় আৰু ডিব্ৰুগড় বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ৰ দ্বাৰা গৱেষণা প্ৰতিষ্ঠান হিচাপে স্বীকৃত হৈছে কলিকতা বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ত আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাৰ নামত এখনি স্মৃতি ফলক আছিল তাৰকনাথ পালিতৰ গৃহত সেইখন স্মৃতি ফলক লগোৱা আছিল কিন্তু কলিকতা বিশ্ববিদ্যালয় যেতিয়া পুনৰ নিৰ্মাণ কৰিবলৈ ললে সায়েন্স কেম্পাছ হিচাপে তেতিয়া সেইখন ফলক আতৰাই থোৱা হৈছিল আৰু আমি কলিকতা বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ৰ উপাচাৰ্যক অনুৰোধ জনালো আমাৰ সংস্থাৰ তৰফৰ পৰা সেইখন ৰিইনষ্টল কৰাৰ বাবে আৰু তেখেতসকলে সেইখন কলিকতা বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ৰ অতিথিশালাৰ সন্মুখত খুব সুন্দৰভাৱে ৰিইনষ্টল কৰিছে কলিকতা বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ত 1911 চনৰ পৰা এটা সোণৰ পদক দিয়াৰ ব্যৱস্থা আছিল সৰ্বশ্ৰেষ্ঠ গৱেষণা পত্ৰ সংস্কৃতত লিখাৰ বাবে এই সোণৰ পদক দিয়া হৈছিল কিন্তু এই পদক দিয়া প্ৰথাটো বন্ধ হৈ আছিল কাৰণ অসমীয়া ছাত্ৰ সন্মিলনীয়ে 1100 টকা জমা দি পেলাই তাৰ সুতৰ দ্বাৰা এই পদকটো দিয়াৰ ব্যৱস্থা কৰিছিল কিন্তু এতিয়া যেহেতু সিমান টকাৰ এটা পুঁজিৰে সোণৰ পদক দিয়া সম্ভৱ নহয় গতিকে কলিকতা বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ে এই পদকটো দিয়া বন্ধ কৰিছিল আৰু আমি তেওঁলোকক এই পদকটো পুনৰ প্ৰৱৰ্তন কৰিবৰ বাবে যেতিয়া অনুৰোধ জনালো তেওঁলোকে জনালে যে যদি সেই পুঁজিত যদি আমি যোগ দিব পাৰো কিছু ধন তেতিয়াহলে তেওঁলোকে সেই পদকটো পুনৰ প্ৰৱৰ্তন কৰিব পাৰিব আৰু সেই অনুপাতে অসম চৰকাৰৰ সাহায্যত আমি কলিকতা বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ৰ সেই সোণৰ পদকৰ যি একাউণ্ট আছে সেই একাউণ্টত আমি 3 লাখ টকাৰ এটি বৰঙনি আগবঢ়াইছো আৰু এই বছৰৰ পৰা সেই আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱা গোল্ড মেডেল পুনৰ প্ৰৱৰ্তনৰ ব্যৱস্থা কৰা হৈছে আৰু উল্লেখযোগ্য যে কলিকতা বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ৰ 113টা এনে ধৰণৰ এৱাৰ্ড আছে কিন্তু সেই এৱাৰ্ড বিলাক কনভোকেশনত দিয়া নহয় অন্যান্য সময়ত দিয়া হয় একমাত্ৰ আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱা গোল্ড মেডেলটোৱে কলিকতা বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ৰ কনভোকেশনৰ সময়তে একেলগে দিয়া হয় আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাৰ নামত এটি এৱাৰ্ড দিছো আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱা বঁটা এটো একোজন পণ্ডিতৰ জীৱনজোৰা সাধনাৰ বাবে বঁটা দিয়া হয় আৰু ইতিমধ্যে আমি 14 জন অসমৰ বৰেণ্য পণ্ডিতক এই বঁটা প্ৰদান কৰিছো যোৱা বছৰলৈকে 14 জন পণ্ডিতে পাইছে এই বছৰ আমি ভদন্ত শাসন বংশ মহাথেৰ নামৰ বুদ্ধিষ্ট পণ্ডিত এগৰাকীক এই বঁটা দিয়াৰ কাৰণে মনোনীত কৰিছোঁ। আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাৰ নাম অসমত সৰ্বজন বিদিত হয়, কিন্তু তেখেতৰ যি কৰ্মৰাজি তাৰ প্ৰকৃত মূল্যায়ন হৈছে বুলি মই নাভাবোঁ। তথাপিও তেখেতৰ স্মৃতি যুগমীয়া কৰাৰ কাৰণে বিভিন্ন ধৰণে প্ৰচেষ্টা হাতত লোৱা হৈছে। অসম চৰকাৰেও যিসকল ছাত্ৰই প্ৰথম বিভাগত উত্তীৰ্ণ হয় তেওঁলোকক একোটিকৈ কম্পিউটাৰ দিয়াৰ ব্যৱস্থা কৰিছে, আৰু সেইটো আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱা এৱাৰ্ড নামেৰে নামাকৰণ কৰি পেলাই আজি কেইবাবছৰো ধৰি দি আছে। তাৰোপৰি আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাৰ নামত এখন উৰণীয়া সেতু ফ্লাইঅভাৰ এখনৰ নামাকৰণ কৰা হৈছে। গুৱাহাটীৰ চানমাৰীস্থিত ফ্লাইঅভাৰখন আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাৰ নামত নামাকৰণ কৰা হৈছে। আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাৰ নামত অসমৰ চুকে কোণে বহুকেইখন বিদ্যালয় মহাবিদ্যালয় স্থাপন হৈছে, আৰু আমাৰ এই অনুষ্ঠানটো আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাৰ নামতেই স্থাপিত। গতিকে এনেধৰণে বিভিন্ন প্ৰকাৰে আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাৰ স্মৃতি যুগমীয়া কৰাৰ কাৰণে বিভিন্ন মহলে বিভিন্ন ধৰণে প্ৰচেষ্টা হাতত লৈ আছে। শেহতীয়াকৈ আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাৰ পূৰ্ণাবয়ব মূৰ্তি এটি উত্তৰ গুৱাহাটীত স্থাপন কৰা হৈছে, আৰু আমাৰ আমাৰ সংস্থাটো আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাৰ এটি বাষ্ট স্থাপন কৰা হৈছে। আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱা উৰণীয়া সেতুৰ কাষতো এটি আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাৰ বাষ্ট স্থাপন কৰা হৈছে। এনেধৰণে আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাৰ বৰ্তমানৰ সময়ত কিছু পৰিমাণে হ'লেও পুনৰ মূল্যায়ন কৰিবৰ কাৰণে যত্ন কৰা যেন অনুভৱ হৈছে।
The Calcutta University instituted Anundoram Borooah Gold Medal. The medal is awarded to the author of the best thesis or record of original work on a prescribed subject relating to Sanskrit learning. Professor Ritaburi Chaudhary is one of the recipients of this prestigious award.
I was awarded Anundoram Borooah Gold Medal at that time from Calcutta University, 1979.
The Hindu Patriot, edited by Horish Mukherjee, in its issue on the 21st of January 1889 observed, "We deeply regret to announce the death of Mr. Anundoram Borooah, ICS. His scholastic attainment was well known through the country." Indian Mirror, edited by Keshab Chandra Sen, in its issue on the 22nd January, commented, "He was a distinguished Sanskrit scholar and did much to further the cause of Sanskrit learning. His premature death is mourned by the whole native community." In the obituary note, his friend Ramesh Chandra Dr, in the preface to his Civilians of Ancient India, wrote, "Amongst my countrymen, the reformer Raja Ram Mohan Roy and Dayananda Saraswati turned their attention to Sanskrit literature. And lastly, my learned friend Mr. Anundoram Borooah of Bengal Civil Service."
1990 চনত অষ্ট্ৰিয়াৰ ভিয়ানেলৈ বিশ্ব সংস্কৃত সন্মিলনত গৈ যোগদান কৰিছিলোঁ, আৰু তাত মোৰ গৱেষণা পত্ৰ আছিল, তাৰ নামেই আছিলে হ'ল শিৰোনামা আছিলে, টাইটল কি হ'ল কণ্ট্ৰিবিউশ্যন অফ আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱা টু সংস্কৃত, সংস্কৃতলৈ আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাৰ অৱদান। আৰু এগৰাকী জাৰ্মান পণ্ডিতৰ সভাপতিত্বত হোৱা বৈঠকত মই পত্ৰপাঠ কৰিছিলোঁ। তাত মই লক্ষ্য কৰিছিলোঁ যে ভাৰতীয় সকলতকৈ যে পশ্চিমীয়া পণ্ডিতৰ, বিশেষকৈ জাৰ্মান পণ্ডিতৰ বেছি সমাৱেশ হৈছিলে। মই 50খন পত্ৰ ফটোগ্ৰাফ কৰি চাইক্লোষ্টাইল কপি লৈ গৈছিলোঁ, সেই গোটেইখিনি মই বিলাই দিব পাৰিছিলোঁ বিদেশী পণ্ডিতৰ মাজত। আৰু সকলোৱে খুব সমী কৰি শুনিছিল, আৰু পূৰা আধা ঘণ্টা সময় মই ব্যৱহাৰ কৰিব পাৰিছিলোঁ। আৰু তেতিয়া মই এটা কথা মনত পৰিছিলে যে সভাপতিগৰাকীয়ে আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাৰ ভূয়সী প্ৰশংসা কৰি শেষত ক'লে, বৰ্তমান পশ্চিমত আনন্দৰাম বৰুৱাৰ অধ্যয়ন আগতকৈ কম হৈছে বুলি তেখেতে আক্ষেপ কৰিছিল।
The government of Assam introduced Anundoram Borooah Award in the year 2005. The award is significant in its contribution to imbibe the scholarly spirit of Anundoram Borooah and to achieve higher standards in the field of learning among modern youth. Anundoram Borooah was a revered academician, a dynamic exponent of Sanskrit as a classical language, and was essentially a seeker of universal culture. Alec Macmillan, in his rhythmic poem, on Anundoram Borooah immortalized him and requested his friends to establish a tablet engraving the piteous tale of one who died so young. Here rests, by trouble vexed no more, the bard of Sabse Chota Poor. He lived beloved, he died demented, killed by a name of sound more wild that ever was for a fork-tailed child, in pandemonium invented. Time was, it trotted a merry note, now death has stilled his tuneful throat, has bid his lyric lips be dumb, wovered the day that weird sounds smote on his astounded tympanum. Then, traveller, pause, let fall a fear, and backward read recorded here the name of doom, the name of fear, Anundoram, Anundoram, the king of sounds, uncouth and queer, of all that can revolt the ear, cacophonous compendium. Anundoram Borooah, Anundoram, Anundoram, Anundoram Borooah.
Yo balye sampradhishto rita sakala hridastamai snehavanto याभ्यां स्वीकृत्य दुःखं विविधमति कथं वर्धितोऽहं तदा